Hello there everyone, welcome to another Gate Ruler video. This is a little later than I was intending to put it up, but here we are going to be talking about the Wild Force as a core concept, as the faction focus for today's video, and this is probably the most versatile core of a deck that you can use because you can build this with literally anything. I think this is the easiest plug and play. I like MONKE. So you take your MONKE and then you go, do you like anything else? Yes, take it. No? You don't even have to. You can just play MONKE. It's strong enough in and of itself that you can just play it. Now, I think its best variants will of course be drawing on card pools from other factions. I don't know what the colours. We'll go with colours, with other colours, but that's not to say that pure blue is weak. But before I fully get into it, I just want to ask you to please subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying the Gate Ruler content, and I'll let you know in the video as well. Anyone who's watching who's interested in Xenonzard, of course, now that game has unfortunately been cancelled. Very quickly, two things. One, turns out Bandai for the last 3 weeks have basically been killing everything that isn't Dragon Ball and Digimon and Battle Spirits. So I suppose we should have seen this coming, but yeah, everything is dead. Everything Bandai owns is dead. And two, I'm going to be making a video about the album I mentioned, how to import that for yourself. If you are interested about the album itself, like what it contains and all that, so keep an eye out for that. Oh, and third thing actually, sorry, just before we get started, please join the Xenonzard English Discord, because there is a group of very dedicated Xenonzard fans who are looking to get everything from this game and preserve it. So that's animations, that's character models, that's voice lines, that's story things, all the cards, of course, all the artwork, everything. So if you're interested in helping them out, go and join the server, or if you just want updates on what things are happening with that, of course, join the server. Anyway, that's that. Enough of that. Let's get started. And we'll start with Buster Kong. So this is a very, very powerful card. Level 3, 5/3/2. Stats are pretty poor. Counter, use the touchdown. The touchdown is to just choose an enemy unit and deal 4 damage to it and break through. This is a very good card, of course. It is better when you hard play it, because what you'll find when you play this deck is actually Buster Kong in some variants, specifically my Xfader variant, actually hasn't made the cut because of this counter limit and the fact that he only deals 4 damage. That's more of a problem because in the Xfader variant in particular, you tend not to have space for guns and gold weapon arsenals, so you can't really easily buff the damage on this to make it hit that 5, 6 threshold that's so useful. 5 really is when it's very, very useful. 4 is a bit okay. But besides the point, this is still a fantastically strong card to just slap down. You can kill an enemy unit to the side and then chuck it into center to do that breakthrough damage, or if your opponent has stuck a massive beefy monster in the middle, you can go ahead and burn that down to make it easy to clear with the Buster Kong. So yeah, very strong card, very strong counter ability. Yeah. Next we've got Rampart Elephant. This is another very, very good card. So this is a 4/3/2. However, when the turn you play it from your hand, it gets +2 HP and Defender. A 4/5/2 Defender is fantastic. I don't know how I can really explain just how good that is without you sitting down and giving it a go. But 5 HP is that perfectly annoying amount of HP where they are going to probably have to chuck 2 attacks into it. And it's 2 strike, so you can have it on the side to attack. And sometimes they're not even going to be able to clear it. If you've got enough removal, they genuinely might be forced to just leave this up, which is so good. Of course, on the turn after that, it's going to be very easy for them to remove, but you don't really care. You've got the value out of it at that point. This card is very, very strong. I'm a big fan. Big Owl. This is, I think, a complete stable 4-up. I was not 100% sure for a while, but honestly, the counter to just draw a card is so good. Maintaining that card advantage, giving you options, letting you do lots of things in a turn or potentially combo off is so potent. And again, it's that 5 HP that's annoying to deal with. You can chuck this in the center, and of course, when you play it, this is something that your opponent is going to be really annoyed with, because you're going to be constantly drawing cards every time one of your Wild Force attacks and damages your opponent. Of course, if your opponent heals, you will not get the draw, but yeah, usually they won't. Usually you'll get it off. You'll be doing enough damage to get the draw off this. Yeah, 5 HP in the center, and it draws you cards. It's really, 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 really solid. Possibly the best card in Wild Force, Bullseye Wolf. So this is a 2/1/1. You either burn 1 damage from an enemy unit, which is pretty useless if you're not buffing it up with other forms of burn damage. And when you are focusing a lot on buffing up that removal, this can quickly become 2, 3, 4 burn even, which is very scary. Or you can just do 1 damage to your opponent. So good to just deal 1 burn. This is really, really nice as well, because sometimes you will just get lucky and your opponent, you'll play this down, you'll do the burn, and your opponent will counter check a zap, 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 for example. And you've only got this on board, so that zap, zap, zap was basically worthless. Whereas, then in the next second you're gonna call down a rampart elephant or something, and now you're not losing your whole board to a counter check zap, 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 which is really, really nice. It's a sort of a niche thing, but fundamentally it deals burn, and it can proc the owl. So yeah, super good card as well. Champ Tiger. So this is a vanilla 5/2/2, and this card is interesting. This is probably the least important one that's really worth considering playing. I play it because 5 attack is very solid. That's going to break through pretty much everything of relevance, all on its own. And at more HP than this, there's very little with 6 HP, so it's basically 7 HP. Beyond this is the other big threshold. Even 6 and 7. At that point, you are forced to attack with 2 things anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So you're getting a lot of good clearing power with this. It's also 2 strike, which means that this is the level of push face that you need to really make your opponent hurt. I think this card is very good. Depending on the variant you're going for, this card is either going to be absolutely worth it or absolutely not worth it. There is a lot of variety in the Wild Force deck building that's really just dependent on the faction you choose to mash it together with. If you're going pure Atlas, then this is probably what you'd want to do, but just experiment, really. I'm basically here to just give you good cards that you should consider, but as I say, you really should read the whole card pool and experiment for yourself. Spotted Giraffe. This card is fantastic. 2/3/1 that buffs 1 to your effect damage done to units. So 3 HP here is very relevant because 2 HP is a very common amount of damage to be burned, but 3 is a lot less common. And this is something that in combination with 1 Guns and Gold arsenal is going to make your opponent's life hell. 4 burn off of any of your 2s becoming 4 burns is really relevant. We'll see that in a second. Your Buster Kong is now 6. Your Buster Arm is now 8. Your Zap 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 is now 8 if you're going for that combination. Your, there's so much that this does. And 3 HP is nice because a lot of units will not be able to hit that on their own. So your opponent may just be forced to leave it up if they want to be optimal, which can be quite annoying for them. Yeah, the card's super good. Tally-Ho Dog. This is probably the worst. This is definitely the worst. It's a 2/2/1, which is okay, but also really, because Intercept is such a powerful effect, but not on this. Now, obviously, if this was if this was a 3 or a 4/2/1, well, that would be pretty crazy. But probably, I don't know that they would necessarily make that. It'd probably be a bit too good. Yeah, it's just not worth the space. I'm not a fan of this, but I figured I should include it in Wild Force just for completeness sake, as this is the faction focus for Wild Force, and then I'm going to sort of go into the good support cards. So let's start good support card. Oh no, sorry, one more. Recon Deer. 3/1/1. This just scries 1. This card's pretty good. Personally, I find it very difficult to find the space to run this. However, it's being able to look at the top card of your deck and just go oh, is this going to screw my opponent over? Yes or no? It's really, really good. Honestly, I think there's a solid argument to run this over Giraffe if you're really not that concerned with doing additional burn, in which case this is another wild force you can run to proc Big Owl, and fundamentally it is going to help you dig for your really, really annoying removal. Speaking of removal, Suppression Fire is your first piece. Oh, yeah, it's weird. So this is immediate timing, and it just chooses and it just burns 2 to an enemy unit. This is really, really strong. This is going to make any special summon deck just want to toast a bath. I'm telling you, this is an instant win against darkness, basically, unless they specifically have a counter as well, which is relatively unlikely, and it's possible you'll get 2 of these. Also, this is with any buff damage. This is going to make Genesis summon players very unhappy, and fundamentally, you can very easily, I would say this is primarily worth the space when you're able to buff that damage. When you're making this 3 damage or 4 damage, this is so annoying to deal with. Your opponent is going to absolutely hate it. This is going to neuter attack phases. You're going to, you know, like, oh god, this card is really, really good. Probably the best, like one of, if not the best Atlas cards. I didn't even feel that. So this just heals up an ally by the amount of damage it just took, even if it would be destroyed. So, you know, there will be times when your opponent will just slam a heavy piece of burn removal, most commonly Buster Arm, for example, burn 6, and you just go, alright, I didn't even feel that, I'm back up. And they just wasted a really big counter or something. Like, this is also great because if you've got a 5 HP thing in the center, your opponent wastes 2 attacks into it, and then you just flip this, suddenly they're not even able to clear, potentially, your center, and they've just wasted their whole turn. Fantastic value. This card is a 4 of just so good. Now, here's Buster Arm that I was talking about. The primary use of Buster Arm is as a counter check. If this card ends up in your hand, you're probably not going to be too pleased. It is unlikely that you're going to be able to get this off and really gain good value out of it, but as a counter check, it is terrifying. It's basically going to remove pretty much anything. However, in my opinion, if you were going to go... Basically, the only reason you would play this is if you were pairing with Volnar or Imagine. Because otherwise, I see no reason to play this because the other factions have better options. Guns and Gold Weapon Arsenal. This is a really, really good consistency card. However, it is counter, which is basically one of those things where you're going to have to like determine: do I want to go down this burn damage route, or this, you know, to unit burn, not to enemy? But and if you are, then this is fantastic. You're going to want to find some space for this. But if you really are finding yourself tight on counter spots, then this is going to have to go out, and it will make your deck building a bit easier because then you know, you don't really have to run, you know, basically this is one of those cards where it's like the linchpin for your burn tools, and if you're not running this, then you probably shouldn't focus on the burn aspects, and you should just focus on the big stats and annoyingness aspects. Okay, Alice of the Holy War World. This card is so good. Do not underestimate the power of being able to just drop something from hand. Your opponent is like pretty much always just gonna forget about this because they're in an awful catch-22 against your deck. If, for example, you have a center, your opponent has 2 units and their ruler. They swing with one of their units to clear your center. Now your opponent's in a catch-22 because if presumably their second unit's not going to be too big. Not like, it's probably going to be, you know, a smaller one if they've called both at the same time. So they're going to swing with that into your ruler, in which point you could call an Alice, and suddenly they've just wasted that attack, and they're going to have to use their ruler attack to clear the Alice. Or they swing with their ruler, in which case, you know, if you don't have the Alice, it's possible that you will counter check some form of removal for the other unit, which means that they are being unoptimal in that sense as well. And if you did have the Alice, then you're still going to stop the ruler attack, and they ensure, okay, you'll get that 1 damage off. But like, you know, it's awful because if they attack with ruler, then it's a possibility they're losing their side. If they attack with their side, it's a possibility that you're going to Alice them. It's awful. This card is really, really good for making your opponent hate themselves no matter what they do. And it's just a fantastic defensive tool. I underrated this card big time when I first read it, but I am fully on board the Alice train. This card is superb. Okay, now let's say you wanted to go down the Volnar route. Personally, I think there is very little reason to do that. I think Volnar Atlas is pretty weak as far as this Wild Force stuff goes. But if you wanted to run this, you could play this to gain card advantage. Frankly, I think this is a bad card right now. Right now, in Night, I think this card is bad. I've honestly, the 2 energy is such a hefty cost, and unless you have win-win or something to just untap and go from there, then this is pretty bad, because then suddenly you're unlikely to really have much to do in your turn. I've heard arguments that, oh, well, you can just use this when you're still setting things up and whatever, but that's stupid. I'd rather be making advantage and like building a board or something, or just making my opponent's life more difficult, pushing more damage to face. Like I just don't think this is very good, but I'm presenting it as an option if you wanted to go down that route. Really, I think a bigger reason to play Volnar will be Dispel, because here, as your counter, you can pop sets, which is very valuable, and also you can negate level 1 or lower events. This can be really disruptive, especially in the mirror, for example. Your opponent will do things like play a spell or play something down knowing they're about to win-win, and if you nullify that win-win, that can really screw your opponent over. It can just end turns, honestly, sometimes. Like if you've got a beefy thing in center and they're planning on doing something to get around it and you just stop them. Yeah, I think this card is super good. It's basically always valuable. Your opponent's most of the time going to have something set, so yeah, card is very, very strong. Okay, you imagine, I would say you want to go down the you are not killing me, I'm going to make your life hell kind of route. And to do that, there are a few options here. So you've got all things must die. This is +2/+2 and retaliate. So basically, stick this on an elephant. Your elephant is now 6/7 retaliating. That is basically impossible to kill. So yep, that's definitely scary. There's also purification. This is as a counter, letting you remove sets and that sort of thing, which is of course very, very good. And there's also Art of Hardening, which is one of the best, if not the best, debatably reduced to zeros in the game, because you can use this on anything. It does, however, cost energy, so I think there is a perfectly valid reason to play Imagine as a support package, and I should say that's true for Volnar as well. You want to be playing that as a support package, and it's true for Xfader. Really, the only faction where you would potentially want to be actually running units and things would be, after this, Purification. Right, here's another option. This is just to buff HP, and also you can boost something into the defensive zone, which can screw your opponent over just as much as an Alice could by making them unable to actually clear it. Okay, let's say you were going for Wonderverse. However, there's a lot of options for Wonderverse, and for a while I thought this might be the optimal combination, but now I'm not so sure. I think Xfader is also very good. For Wonderverse, though, what you're going to be getting here is you're going to be getting a strict upgrade to Buster Arm in Zap Zap Zap, which I think honestly is just a 4 of when you can play it. It doesn't matter that if you draw this, it's probably going to be a dead card. The fact of the matter is, when you counter check it, it's such high value that it doesn't really matter. It more than makes up for it. You also get access to Gachi Horror, one of the best cards in the game. This card is removing sets or discarding your opponent's hand. It's a 4/5/1. It has excellent clearing power with 4 attack, like pretty good. 5 HP, making it very annoying to remove. Super strong card. You also have Magic Blaster. This is going to deal 3 damage, so if you're running that burn focus, like burn packagey thing, which you probably would if you were playing Wonderverse, now this can easily be 4, 5, 6 burn for 1. That is terrifying. You've also got access to a ridiculous vanilla in the form of Pojimu. This is so annoying to deal with. 2/5/2, you can slam this on the side and your opponent's probably never going to clear it because it's got 5 HP, but it's 2 strike every single turn. You can just bash your opponent's face in with. Very annoying to deal with. You can of course jam it in center as well, which is also really annoying because now your opponent has to clear a 5 HP thing that costs you basically nothing. Finally, for Wonderverse, you've got Ether Field. This is just a generic reduced to 0, and this is obviously strictly better than the Volnar version, which I didn't even bother putting in here because it has counter and having enough counter space. Finally, and my personal favorite because it makes your opponent really hate playing against you, is Xfader. And that's because you can have 3 bullshit removal tools in the same deck, and that is going to be Buster Arm. I would cut Buster Kong in this list. Buster Arm, White Bone Princess, and Destiny Sword. Let's have a look at this. White Bone Princess here. So this is a level 2 4/4/2, so the stats are okay, the strike is alright. You only get the effect on counter. However, this counter, I underrated this so much, but it is really annoying. Don't forget that you are able to do things like remove your opponent's small things with other bits of removal to force this to remove a high value target. Also, it's possible your opponent will only have 1 high value target, in which case, that's awful. That's not good. It's also straight destruction, not dealing damage, which means things like I didn't even feel that are going to be totally useless. This card is really good, but obviously the best removal tool. And if nothing else, if you really are not a fan of anything and you just want to play pure Atlas, you should play pure Atlas Xfader just to run Destiny Sword in the place of your Bust Arm, because it just destroys enemy units. Destroys an enemy unit. It's just the best form of removal in the game. It just, something is dead. And it is so valuable. You don't care about stats, you don't care about anything, you just go bang, you're gone. This card is really, really good. And honestly, the deck is so fun because with 12 counters that are basically removing anything in the game, most of the time your opponent's going to attack with something and they're going to lose their other attacker. And a lot of the time, every time your opponent has an attack phase, by the end of that attack phase, they don't have a board anymore. So that is it. This was a bit long. There's a lot to talk about for Wild Force. I haven't talked about every amazing card that they have access to because there's so many, and this video is already over 20 minutes long. So I was like, yeah, let's not do too many here. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, please leave a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel for more Gate Ruler videos. I make these daily because I have nothing better to do. That's a lie, I do, but I do it anyway. Anyway, I think that's all the shilling. Discord, server linked in the description. Sub to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.